Okay, let's start. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Uh, this is Harrison from BYD Battery team. And also we have Guy here from our partner, Victron Energy. Hi, Guy.
Hello, Harrison. Thanks for having me today. Thanks, everyone, for coming along.
Yeah, so we are very glad today to have you, to give you this joint webinar for you. And I think this is our agenda for today. So we will first give you some information of BYD battery, and then about the BYD, especially the product line, and especially for our new product, new Flex. Then I will hand it to Guy. He will present you some more information about Victron for you. Then Guy will demonstrate the installation of the Victron inverter with the Flex battery, the whole solution, so you can see how easy it can work. So if you have any questions when the presentation, please feel free to write it down in the chat box. You can see we have our support team online also, so they will answer your question during the presentation. And we also have a Q&A section at the last for 10 minutes, so to answer all your questions. Yeah. Okay, so let's start. Yeah. So firstly, I'd like to introduce a little about the BYD company. Yeah. Just a minute. Yeah, okay. BYD, as you know that BYD battery, BYD company actually is one of the biggest battery manufacturers in the world. And BYD established in 1995. And now BYD have more than 220,000 employees and already reached about 23.8 billion the revenue in the 2020. And also, BYD companies owns 4 major divisions. That's electronics, auto, new energy, and the rail transit. And as you know that the energy storage battery is belong to the new renewable energy division. And another part, a very famous part actually is of BYD is BYD Auto. We currently are pushing our new generation of generation passenger cars, EV car actually, to Australian market. So it will be soon. And also we have our commercial cars operating all over the world. And you can see them in Sydney and in Melbourne airport especially. And you can find them it's operating very well. I mentioned that because we have this know-how about battery, which also using in the EV cars. And that makes us, this know-how also can used in the BYD battery box. And that makes us become the expert of the battery industries. And this is actually our proud end-to-end industry supply chain. And you can see that start from mineral development to battery cells R&D modules, manufacturing, and into the recycling. BYD actually holds the whole supply chain. I think currently you are actually compare with other competitors, and they are the system integrator. The BYD holds the whole supply chain. And I think you already seen what happened on the panel recently about the supply chain is going to tighter and tighter at this moment. And many people will think that a battery would be the next. But as you may see that the BYD can still provide our customers with high quality products and very cost-effective solutions. And that's all thanks to our end-to-end industry chain. And also, we have 7 manufacturing centers in China. So the capacity of the production will reach 65 gigawatts this year, and it will be more in the future. So we have fully confidence that we can provide our product stable and very with high quality to our customers. Even at this stage, the supply chain is going to become tighter and tighter. Yeah. Then let's move to the BYD battery cell itself. Currently, we have 5 different types of products in the Australian market. That's HVS, HVM, LVS, LVL, and LV Flex. And you will see that HVS and HVM is a high voltage battery product, and its IP55 can be used in all door system. And also we have LVS, it's also IP55 product, and LVL, LV Flex is IP20 products can be used indoor. And all these products can be used for on-grid system, off-grid system, and backup system. And today we will focus more on the LV products. And also I'd like to introduce some related features of our BYD batteries. And we call that 4 high. That's high safety, high reliability, high flexibility, and high usability. Talk about safety. The safety always is the most important thing, isn't it? And the BYD battery have several parts to make sure our products is the most safest product in the market. The first is about the materials, and we using FP materials, and its performance the highest safety behavior in all of the materials of the battery. And you can see the right side, the decomposition temperature of every FP is around from actually 480 degree to 600 degree. So you can barely see the every FP battery have some explosion issues. And also we also doing lots of safety tests in our factory. You can see that it's about the pressure, caught fire, and also we'll do some draw test. After all this testing, our products can still perform very stable and safety. And the third part is about how we're using the highest industry standards. As you can see that BYD batteries can already certificates with CE, VDE, and IEC and UL, all the highest industry standard in the world, especially for VED. Actually, this is for EV car standards. And we know that very little competitors can pass in this test in the world. And to the high reliability, now our BYD battery box has it already have more than 210,000 installation experience all over the world, and it covers more than 56 countries in the world. The footprint is covered almost over the world. And after 7 years tracking record, all our products is operating very stable. And the second high is high flexibility, and the fourth one is high usability. For flexibility, we can it's very flexible for customers. The battery box can start with 4 kWh to 983 kWh, so it can fit for big and small system. And also, it can be extended at any time, because we know that customers will thinking different at a different stage. We have this option for them so they can extend when they need. And also, the product is very flexible in different locations, outdoor, indoor, and different temperature, different scenario. Also, this product is designed for different applications. For on-grid, just as I mentioned, they can use for one-phase, three-phase, on-grid system, off-grid system, system with backup, so it can match different situation. And for the high usability, we want to introduce our tools for the installers. There are B-Connect 2.0, it's a cell phone application, and the BCP is a PC version of the B-Connect Plus. And especially for our B-Connect 2.0, this is already released in the Apple Store and the Google Store. You can download it very easily. And with this new application, is very powerful and have more functionality than previous version. Basically, you can use doing the commissioning and maintenance and diagnosis with this app very easily just via your cell phone. And also, you can collect the history data and some details from the cell phone and then you can send this data to us. So if you have some serious problem, we can using that to helping you to solve problems remotely. That's easier. Okay, then we talk about the LV products itself. So currently we have LVS, LVL, and the LV Flex. You can see the picture on the right side. The LVL is here, the white one, big one, and it has 15.4 kilowatt hours per module, and it can be extended to 983 kilowatt hours with the 60 hours parallel. And for LVS, it can easily start with from just 4 kilowatt hours, and it's a IP55 product can be installed outdoor. So it also can be extended to 256 kilowatt hours per system with 16 towers as a parallel. And the last one is our new Flex. And I will keep bringing some more information to you. And also we will demonstrate the installation demo with Victron later. About the Flex, you can see that LV Flex has 4.5 kilowatt hours capacity with the maximum output current with 70 amps. So also you will notice that the weight of this module is 47 kg. So you can easily lift it by one person, much easier. And also you can see here, we actually provide the handle in the front of the frame and also at the side of both sides of the frame. So it's easier for customer to move it and then lift it. And this new product is designed for with or without a rack solution. Actually, we enhance the whole frame structure. So you can easily just stack directly modules by modules one by one without a rack. That's another I think it's more cost-effective options for customers who don't want to use a cabinet. But also, it can, if you need a cabinet, I think people here, we know that lots of customers have their own cabinet. Contains includes the battery and inverters into it together. We really recommend that. And also, we will provide our BYD own cabinet in December. That will be another option. Also, you can see the picture here. The Flex can be installed horizontal or vertical. So it can match for different situations and especially for different space requirements. That's easier. Okay, and also there's some unique technology we are using in the Flex. We want to show you. One is about the C2P technology, and it brings high capacity and low volume with a long lifespan. And also we add the 4-level safety BMS into the BMS system, so it can maximum the safety of the battery system. And also especially for we have the dual core BMS that can help our customers to minimize unexpected incidents. For example, if you are the system, one of the core of the BMS is fell down for the system, it's still okay for the whole system. It can still working very normally with this spare part. And even when you want to updating the BMS or maybe after a long time operating, it doesn't have to shut down all the system. You can just update one course of the BMS, and then the updating finished, the BMS system will automatically to update to another spare part by itself. It doesn't need to shut down system and don't need the customer installer to update both of the cores of the BMS. That's really convenience for the customer. About the C2P technology, that's some more details. And as you all know that usually the batteries comes first from the battery cells, and then we currently we usually, let's say, using a structure, we call that battery package, to assemble some lots of battery cells. Then we using this battery package into the battery modules. And in the Flex, we just enhance the structure and improve the BMS and monitoring system and the communication system in the battery itself. So it can allow us to just using battery cells directly assembled to module product that give us help us saving more packaging and saving more spaces. So that give us the benefit of the high capacity, small volume, long lifespan, and also reduce the cost for our customer to have a more cost-effective solution. Okay, so this part is I'm trying to recommend you about as a B partner plan. That's we are going to improve to promote that. We really encourage our customers to join this B partner plan, and you can register all the batteries you have installed it, and you can earn some reward points from this program. And using this program with these rewards, you can let's say having some more components or the battery products itself for free using this kind of rewards. Okay, the last part, just to let you know, our support is always there. You can download all the informations from our official website, and also you can checking our hotline and our contact details. If you have any questions about the product itself, about the B partner plan, and other inquiry questions, you can just let us know via this website, hotline, or our social media. Okay, I think that's all for my part. I will hand it over to Guy. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Harrison. I've noticed there's already some questions in the chat being answered. So if you've got any questions now, would probably be a good time to enter those. Otherwise, I'll get started with my side of the presentation. Great to hear from BYD. All right, great. Yeah, so my name's Guy Stewart. I'm the Victron online training and community manager. I've actually worked with some of my colleagues in this audience before. I used to be a system designer at Remba Power Company and salesperson. I've been working with BYD and Victron products now for over 5 years. I think we installed some of the first BYD lithium batteries in Australia. Definitely was involved in the documentation around those products, and I've got to know them pretty well over the years and see them both grow. The good news, I suppose, with this new LV Flex is that it's a product you already understand. If you've used a BYD battery before, specifically the 2.5 kilowatt hour stackable modules, then there is very little here that's going to surprise you. In fact, everything's got better. There were some frustrations in the past with that product, and I'll run through those improvements that have been made, but yeah, it's mostly good. Basically, as an overview, Victron's a power electronics company. We provide inverter chargers and charge controllers and system control and monitoring components. You can see here the components coming from BYD are the BYD Flex and the separate BMU. So you need one BMU per battery system. A single battery module will require a BMU, and a BMU can service up to 64 individual modules in the Flex range. You also need a Victron CAN bus Type A cable. This is the interface between the BMU on the BYD side and in our Venus Servo GX on our side. And of course, the Victron inverter charger and other charge controllers. So I'll run through some sample systems here. This is probably the minimum viable system. You may find in this case that this is actually a bit overkill on the Flex side. You have a too large of a battery for this quite small multi, but nevertheless, it does work. This is an integratable system. You can see here some of the functional lines connecting a system like this together. So we've got the MPPT charge controller connected to our Servo GX with a V direct cable or a V CAN cable if it's a V CAN PPT. The battery itself is also connected to the Turbo GX via its BMU, and then the inverter charger needs to be connected via the V-bus cable. These control cables are important when connecting to a battery like the BYD Flex, because the BYD Flex and the BMU will send charge parameters to the rest of the system, and the rest of the system will adapt its behavior accordingly. So if the battery is full, it'll stop charging and send that signal to stop charging. If the battery is empty, it'll send the signal to the inverter charger to stop discharging and protect the battery. I'm sure if you've had experience with lithium batteries before, you'll be aware that it's not just about system voltage anymore. As Harrison mentioned, inside the lithium batteries are a lot of lithium battery cells, and each cell has its own individual voltage, around 3 volts. And each individual cell also needs to be balanced. Now, the BYD system has an automatic system internally for managing and balancing those cells, but if those cells either come out of balance from the factory or they fade out of balance over time, it's very important the rest of the system knows how to manage that situation. Individual cells going out of balance can be a bad situation for a battery, can lead to a fault or a failure. The BYD system will ultimately try and protect itself with internal contacting relays and a FET bridge, but it's better to manage that at a system level before those fail-safes have to come into play. So looking at the next system up, a more normal system, let's say, the 5 kVA Multiplus 2, you could probably get away with a single Flex. The Flex 5 kilowatt hour battery can deliver up to 70 continuous amps at 55 volts. That's just shy of the continuous rating of the Multiplus 2. So we'd commonly recommend having 2 of them to make sure there's no chance you're going to potentially overload that battery with a continuous load out of the multi. But in some cases, depending on your system design, it may work that'll supply the customer's load if they're not using the full capacity of the Multiplus 2. The surge capacity is 105 amps, which is, that's great. Once again, very similar lineup, still requiring a GX device, and still requiring this time the single BMU for the 2 Flex batteries. Here's a slightly more complicated system wiring diagram, or a basic wiring diagram to show this layout. In this case, we've got a generator integrated into the system as well, using an auto start and a connection to VRM and an AC PV inverter. In an off-grid system, the Venus controls the charging power of that AC PV inverter using the commands from the BYD BMU. Maximum possible system sizing from Victron and BYD. In our case, it's 12 by 15 kVA quattros. It's 180 kVA of power. 64 by 5 kVA flex batteries. That's 320 kilowatt hours of battery. Keep in mind, Paul mentioned, but stacking those batteries without a cabinet, without an external frame, is limited to 4 high. So consider that real estate and how you're going to manage all those strings, of course. It's a lot of power to balance, but nevertheless, that's the number that can be controlled by the BMU. Here's an example system diagram of something like that. In this case, those batteries would be in a cabinet to be stacked 6 high like that. These batteries are perfectly capable of supporting our 3-phase range, or batteries connected, inverter chargers connected in parallel as well. So some of the good features, some of the improvements I should say that have been made. Very accurate state of charge. So this was a concern that we had with some of the earlier models from BYD. This is now very, very accurate. There's no low power fade. Basically where the current is low, the system would detect it and adjust the state of charge accordingly. That being said, like all state of charge monitoring, it will fade out over time. It's not perfect. There's losses through the inverter charger, through heat and noise and inefficiencies, sound. It's important that you do get these batteries to the 98% at least state of charge to make sure, and ideally once they get there and hang there for a while, they'll recalibrate to 100% state of charge once the modules have balanced out internally, those internal cells. The balancing of those cells typically happens at the top end of that charge cycle. So make sure if you're having issues with states of charge not being accurate or system shutting down when it shouldn't be, make sure it's getting that regular charge. The other thing is the improved power and energy density. So the cabinet itself, if you're familiar with the 2.5 kilowatt hour previous model, it's extremely similar to that, almost irrecognizable if you didn't have them side by side. That was previously 2.5 kilowatt hours. This one's now 5 kilowatt hours. So doubling of that energy density. Power density is also improved, so you can draw more current out of each individual pack, and that makes sense too. All models are suitable for off-grid. That's good to know. And also improved cold temperature charge performance. So yeah, this has been a feature now of the LVL models, but coming now to the Flex range as well, with full charging now starting at 5 degrees Celsius and reduced charging down to -10 degrees Celsius, which is incredible and very welcome in certain parts of the country. One other improvement that's been made through the close collaboration between BYD and Victron is improved internal diagnostics. So now we get some cell level data coming out of the BYD battery onto the GX device. And this is also communicated then to our VRM online monitoring portal. So you can see minimum and maximum cell voltages, you can see minimum and maximum temperatures, the number of battery modules connected, which is very useful when initially commissioning a system to make sure everything's there, and if any individual module is blocking the charge or the discharge of the system. Yeah, maybe there's a fault or something. This is now also important because there's less diagnostics on the front of the module itself. I'll show you some photos in a second. After these slides, I'll run you through and we'll go outside and have a look at the system in action. Firstly, what you get in the box, a communications cable for joining the batteries together, the communications port terminator, and the spacing nubs to secure the stacked batteries so they screw in so the batteries can't slide off each other. Yeah, you can see a stack there, a short 2-unit stack. The BMS is integrated into the battery module itself, but the BMU is the interface with the Victron system. So as mentioned, the battery weighs 47 kilograms. Look, that's a heavy lift. I think the safe lifting guidelines in Australia are around 20 kilos. It's a safe two-person lift. I find it very manageable. Maybe it's 25 kilos, that falls under that requirement. However, a one-person lift is possible. Having those handles on there, and especially an adjustment with one person, so not lifting up, over your head or whatever, that would be a dangerous situation, but to move a battery off or adjust it or shift it is perfectly capable. And the handles on it are excellent. So yeah, handles designed by someone who's actually used them before. If you've ever tried to move batteries around, look, it's an inherently difficult part of battery management is how do you actually manage this incredible weight. The handles are balanced, so that comes very welcome. They're on all sides, or either side and the front. It's a very, very welcome addition, and they tuck in neatly on both the front and the sides there. There are some extra accessories that are not included. So yeah, the BMS cable you'll need to buy separately from Victron. It's the Type A cable, same as the other BYD products. Leveling feet are available, so if you're going to install this without a cabinet on a concrete floor, or in this case, yeah, I've got a little dolly, then you can get these separate feet. And battery and earth cables and the M6 lugs required are also not included and will need to be bought separately. There's a look at the system as it is installed, and we'll go out in a second and I'll show you how it works in action. I've been using this system now for many months, and yeah, it's been performing fantastically. Very, very happy with it. No surprises, which is just what you want from this. So I'll run out now and let's go have a little look. I'll start the system up. I'm going to stop screen sharing and turn off this video. I'll just be mute for a second while I change over to my other headset. All right. I hope you can now hear me. I believe you can. I'm going to take a walk outside. Let's hope the connection stays solid. And in just a moment, I'll turn my video back on and we can have a look at this system in action. All right, I hope you guys can all see that now. So coming into the workshop here, you can see the batteries down here, currently not connected. They've been wired in, so I've got the battery power cables connected in through. This is a test system, so don't follow my wiring here at any reason. This is a functional wiring. You'll need to do your own wiring in compliance with local guidelines to make sure it's suitably compliant, but for this test installation, this will be functionally correct. We've got the batteries here connected through to earth on the chassis, just there. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect the terminating module here into the output on the last slave battery. I'm then going to connect the input of the slave battery into the output on the master. And you can daisy chain, like I said, 64 of these together. We're then going to connect the input of the comms up to our BMU into the BMS connection port, like so. I'm going to connect the battery side of our Victron cable into the inverter, like so. The Ethernet connection port here allows a direct connection through to the internet. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm now going to follow this blue comms cable around up to our Serbo GX, which is up here, and we're going to connect it into the BMS CAN ports here. These BMS CAN ports come pre-configured by default at the baud rate that's required by the BMS or the BMU of the BYD system. So that's the right port to use there. In this case, the V CAN I have connected through to my inverter charger up here. Right, with that all connected, we can now head back and turn on our first battery. Power button's up here. We turn it on by holding down for 5 seconds. 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll hear a click. I'll turn the second battery on. Hear a second click. You can see now the BMU's got power and it's going to start searching for the Serbo GX. At this point, the DC bus is powered up, so I can turn on the multi here. The Serbo GX is now firing up. It'll take a second. During this time, we've got a bunch of blinking lights on the BYD batteries. Once they're found, those should stabilize. Victron's now starting up. We can see it's found the inverter charger. I'm also going to turn on my PV here. We head back in. We can now see the BYD battery has been found. It's fully charged. If we head back, we can see it's also under external control. This means that the BMU is sending its messages through to the Victron system, and the Victron system is now controlling the charging parameters of this system through here. This all happens by default automatically now as part of the Victron system. The Serbo GX detects the BYD battery. If we head in now, this is managed through a system called DVCC. We head into the DVCC menu. You can see DVCC here is forced on. So the system detected that it's a BYD battery, and as a consequence, DVCC must be enabled, and that happens automatically when the system's connected through the BMS CAN port. You can override some settings here, specifically the limit managed charge voltage. So if, for instance, you want to override those maximum battery voltages or those target charge voltages to perhaps say correct an imbalance of cells that's happening or reduce the maximum charge current, instead of the battery choosing the maximum charge current, then you can override those here. But otherwise, they're set automatically. Okay, I think that's, I'll just take a step back. You can see the whole system operating there again. I think that's all good. I'll now head back into the office, and I'll show you a short video of the next stage of the commissioning that would happen at this stage, which is on the BYD. So I'll just pop my video off and see you in a sec. Okay, hopefully that works smoothly and you guys can all hear and see me. Okay, next thing's next. I'll show you the next stage of what we'd normally do in the commissioning process. Okie dokie. All right, let's see how this goes. We'll make this video available to you guys as well, so you can see in your own time. But I'll play it. Okay. Oh no, what's this? Oops. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see that video now. I'll start it playing. It goes for about 2 minutes. So this is opening up the B Connect app. This is on the BYD side. It pretty much walks you through the procedure. Once you connect to the app, it'll need to download the latest firmware and parameter tables from the website. So you'll do this on Wi-Fi when you've got a 3G or 4G connection. Once you've got those parameter tables, you'll then need to connect to the BYD. It creates its own Wi-Fi network. The Wi-Fi password is on the screen. It's also written on the side of the BMU. Once you pop in that password, it'll join the Wi-Fi network that's being created by the BMU. Once you join that Wi-Fi network, you can then continue back to the B Connect app. It'll update the firmware if it's available to be updated. This has been sped up, so this can take several minutes. And also it's good to note that the firmware update isn't applied immediately once it's been updated. It can take 10 minutes. So, you know, it's a good time to have a cup of tea or do something else while you clean up around the site. Once you're in there, you'll be presented with the configuration screen. You'll select Victron, you'll select the model, you'll select the situation, you'll present it, have a chance to review the data, and then click submit. And then the system is correctly configured within BYD's system. It'll show you some system data. From there, there's a bunch of settings. That updated the firmware to the unit, but once you try and connect to the BMU's data as well, it may be also due for a firmware update. So there's separate firmware for the BMU as well as for the batteries themselves. Once that firmware is updated, then you can access the data on that system. You can download that data and find out what's happened with the battery. It's got lots of parameters in there and lots of detailed information. You can send that off to BYD too, if you want. Also inside the app, there is some, what's next? that's the review of the settings. Yeah, already connecting correctly configured. You can also see the firmware versions that are in there. That's good to make sure if you think the firmware update details, if you're having issues with the product. In Australia, I'm sure as most of you know, Victron is serviced by Alps Power. Okay, cool. I can stop that now. Very good. Now I'll just jump back to my slides for a sec, and then we'll give a little wrap up and get some Q&A. There's actually one other thing I wanted to mention as well, but I'll mention that after this. Okay, so as I mentioned at the start, I'm the training manager at Victron Energy. I'm also the Victron community manager. Victron has a big self-help ethic. We like to encourage people and support them in their learning and in supporting others. I've now got, I think it's about 60,000 questions and answers on this community, which we've been curating and managing for the last couple of years. Strongly recommend if you have any issues with any Victron products, including integrations with BYD, that your first port of call is to review the community and see what's available there. Even if you end up getting the solution solved through another channel, like through talking to BYD Direct or your Victron sales manager or your Victron distributor, it's really useful for the whole world if you can help out by adding content to that community. If you get a question resolved, answer it on there. So yeah, just makes the whole industry more efficient, basically. Instead of waiting for somebody to talk to, you can find the answer there and go and self-serve. Victron Professional is the other portal from Victron. It's where I manage the online training. So I provide online training courses around all Victron products, including BYD integrations, much more detailed than today's webinar. But this was a pretty good overview, I think, to get you started and to show you, give you some confidence to maybe take the leap into using one of these integrations. Be sure to check out Victron Professional. Inside Victron Professional is the online training courses. We've also got written documentation too, if that's more your thing. I glossed over a few of the details around customized configurations. For instance, you can adjust the internal, it'll work out of the box, but you can adjust the internal parameters of the Multi-Plus to decide when it shuts down or when it stops charging as separate to the commands it's given or the overarching commands it's given by the battery. So you can't force it to do something that the battery doesn't want it to do, but you can constrain it within those constraints if you wanted it to. You can find those written documentations inside by Googling Victron BYD inside the battery compatibility guide. All right, cool. That's all the slides I have. There was one thing I wanted to mention as well, which I discovered earlier today. With the BYD system, it's important to not have voltage on the battery terminals when you're starting the batteries up. So if you're having issues and the batteries don't seem to be wanting to turn on, make sure that they're properly isolated from other sources of voltage, whether that's a generator connected to an inverter charger or PV connected to a solar charge controller or something like that. Make sure there's no voltage, system voltage on those batteries before you turn them on, or you may have issues starting them up. If you have issues starting them up, just isolate them from the power supply and try then, and it should come good. All right, cool. That's all I've got to say and all I've got to present. So we can now have, if anyone else wants to speak up, they can. Otherwise, I'll have a quick review of the chat and see if there's anything in there for me.
Yeah. Thank you, Guy. I think it's we'll have more time to answer these questions. I think already in the chat box is answering some questions. If you do have some more, just bring it out. Yeah. Recommended cables. This from Rob. Recommended cable size to battery terminals.
Is that a question for me, do you think?
I think it's for us, maybe.
I mean, the issue with battery sizing in terms of cross-sectional area of the copper is that the insulation temperature rating can vary. So you can get automotive cables with a very low temperature insulation rating, like 45 or 55 degrees Celsius. Even though it's got quite a lot of copper into it, it won't be as good a cable for using as a battery supply than a cable with 110 degree rating insulation on it. The battery can get a lot hotter. The cable can get a lot hotter before it's damaged. So it's important when you're sizing up battery cables to look at, well, what's the load you're going to expect through the cable, and then find the appropriate cable for that. That being said, one you can use, I think either 25 square mil or 35 square mil cables at 110 degrees Celsius insulation rating would be more than sufficient for the individual cells. If you guys have a different advice, then now would be a good time to override. Hi, Paul. I just saw your chat in the chat. All right, so the question from Paul regarding the PV support assistant. That's a good question. I don't know, Paul. I'm sorry. I've been following the new devices, the new products from Victron, where there is no PV support assistant anymore. So the plan is to rule it out entirely, but it doesn't help you. As for that PV support assistant, yeah, does it regard a BMS? I'm not sure. I have to find out. And when I do, given that it's just been changed, I'll make sure it gets changed in the software so that it clarifies whether that's a generic BMS or the Victron's one, or another. So sorry, unless one of the other people from Victron know. Chris is here, I saw earlier. I'm not sure if he's aware, but I'll find out for you. No idea from Chris either. There's a question for BYD there. I don't know if you guys want to get that. Can the Flex be configured via Ethernet in a PC?
The PC? You mean from the remote, Frank?
I think he means do you have to use the Wi-Fi, or is it possible to plug in into that Ethernet port?
Yeah, I think if you have a Wi-Fi modem and connect to the internet through the Ethernet port, you can directly using BConnect Plus or. Okay, guys, I think it's all for today, and we will put our email address into the chat box. And if you have further questions, just email us, and then we will answer all for you. And is that okay for you, guys?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks for organizing the event and giving me opportunity to present.
Yeah, thank you. Good support for you, always.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'll be sending you my materials as well, so you can pass them on to the attendees. Yeah, of course. Thank you, guys. Thank you, people.